Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and welcome to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. I can't believe it's still the morning. I've been on since 9:15 in the morning, but it's been a really exciting day. We kicked the day off with going over the brand new Adobe XD update, XD 19, and we just wrapped up with Jessica Moon. We're gonna be designing some really cool stuff using design systems and components. And then right after this Daily Creative Challenge, we've got Terry White coming up with a photography Daily Creative Challenge. He's doing some really cool stuff with photo editing. And then we've got Eunice right after him to wrap the day up. So, Daily Creative Challenge, if you're brand new to this, we run this every 2 weeks, the XD Daily Creative Challenge, and we also have a Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, and now we have a Photography Daily Creative Challenge. We got a lot of challenges. And before I get into this, big good morning. I probably said a big good morning to a lot of you already, but hello. Yeah, Felix, get him some tea. I have some tea over here. I'm gonna take a sip of some tea because I can. But a big good morning, afternoon to everyone joining us and everyone who's been here since 9:15 in the morning. We've got Melody, one of our awesome Adobe Live guests, hosts, mentors. She does everything. We've got Katie and Samuel and Anna and Kita and Tim and Daniel and Adobe Live. Gus Bot's in the house over there. Paco's over here running the show. You got Pokehan. I love that name. Corey. Yeah, so the Daily Creative Challenge we run pretty much every 2 weeks. And in the XD Challenge and the Photoshop Challenge kind of alternate, or at least it has up until this point. And we got the photography right after me. And we really do this to, help all of you learn something new. Maybe you've never used Adobe XD before. Maybe you're just brand new to UI and UX, so you want to learn something new. So, we really want to showcase and help you build a portfolio. Design some really cool stuff, learn auto animate, learn about components, which just shipped this morning. So if I hop over to my screen, and if you are tuning in live, let me know where you're tuning in from. Joss is from Spain, and Claire's from the UK. Awesome. Carlos is asking, has my voice changed? So I've been, I'm at the end of some sort of like cold type thing, and it's just raspy as heck. Last week I was trying to record some additional videos for the launch this morning, and it's just like I sounded like an 80-year-old smoker. Welcome to Adobe XD. It wasn't working. So yeah, I've got a little bit of something going on, and there's like a cough. And if you've been here since 9:15 in the morning, you've probably heard quite a few coughs from me. I apologize, but it'll get better. So we've got Vladair from Brazil and Leslie from Denver, Sebastian from Amsterdam. We've got New Hampshire, Mexico, Iran, India. Sending vitamin C your way. Thank you. I need a lot of that stuff. I've got Ricola cough drops in my bag. I can't wait to grab some of those. Georgia and Egypt and Kenya and Miami and Morocco. This is what I love about something like this, is we're connecting with so many people all around the world. We're helping you. It's a free show. Dive in, learn something new. You can grab XD for free. It's so cool. Kayla from Toronto, my hometown. Awesome. Sweet. All right, so Daily Creative Challenge. Here's the landing page, behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge. And this is the one for the XD Daily Creative Challenge. There's a big blue register button at the top. If you haven't hit that big blue register button at the top, before I do that, Marissa Blair is in the house, also from Toronto. I love giving shout outs to Marissa because she not only hosted the Daily Creative Challenge before I took over, but she also provides all the templates that all of you are going to be using throughout this process. And I'm going to show you some of that template in a second. But she does a lot of work for the challenge. Great designer, great businesswoman. So give Marissa a big thank you for the templates that all of you are going to be diving into. So here we go. So you haven't pressed that big blue button at the top. Press it, so that way you're notified when we release new challenges every single morning at 8:30, aside from the weekends. 8 o'clock in the morning, new challenge unlocks, and you're gonna join me at 11:30 a.m. Monday to Friday to kick off each challenge, get some inspiration on what you can possibly do with some of that stuff. And then you're gonna use Behance to share that challenge and your progress using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. That way we can see it, we can view all your awesome stuff, and we can showcase some of it. And then you have until May 27th, next Monday, to complete all the challenges. But as I mentioned many times in the past, if you need a few extra days to complete them, take a few extra days. It's not a competition, so, you know, learn something new, build up your skills, and if you need a few days to polish it up, do it. Grab XD for free and join us on Discord. If I hop over here, we have like 3,500 people on Discord, which is insane. Great community. Another thing I love about XD is the community is awesome. And you can introduce yourself, get feedback, give feedback, ask questions, answer questions if you want to. We got some great mentors. We've got some Adobe employees in here. Andy is somewhere in here. He's always online helping out. Andy's a super trooper. He's just a great guy, great part of the community. And down here are challenges. So today's challenge is to design a splash screen and landing page using Adobe XD and the template that Marissa has provided for us. And you're gonna be using components. You're gonna turn the loading icon into a component, and we're gonna get a little bit fancy with this one. We're not gonna go too crazy, but I do wanna show you a few tips and tricks in Adobe XD using components and that sort of thing. And you know, this is the first challenge, so we're gonna start off fairly basic. So let me go ahead, if you haven't yet grabbed the template, let me go ahead and hop over to Adobe XD. And this is the template. And this template, again, provided by Marissa, looks fantastic. She definitely went above and beyond with this one. And if you really are brand new to XD, brand new to designing, there's some logos you can use, there's some icons, some headers and colors and that sort of thing. And you can very easily select all of these and just add them as character styles if you wanted to. You can select the colors, you can add those, whoops. You can add those as colors. Super cool. So you can keep your whole document up to date, and eventually, you know, if you really want to build this out, you can use this as a design system and link from it from another document. There's photos, forms, which you can turn into a component. And one new thing that we're doing is I'm going to be providing the reference file. So after every stream, I'm going to be uploading my progress to Dropbox, and you'll be able to download every single day the updates. So if you really want to follow along and pick my thing apart, you can definitely do that. And if you're curious about how something is created, you can download my file and keep going. And you know, some other information. There's a flow chart over here, and then down here at the bottom, woo, moving all around. We got some templates for iPhone, iPad, and that sort of thing. So here we go. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here. I'm just gonna place an artboard. I'm gonna grab my artboard tool over here to the left. And we have a lot of different artboards you can use. You can also drag out one and create your own of any size you want. Let's go for, which do we wanna go for? We'll do an iPhone 10 and 10s. Whoops, let me just, why is it doing that? There we go. I'll just do that and I'll just, yeah, whatever. Okay, so I've got my artboard here. And what we're gonna do to keep things super simple, we're gonna create some sort of a loading screen, a splash screen, whatever you wanna call it. And then, you know, the challenge was to also design a landing page. We probably won't have time to design the full landing page today, but that'll be your challenge. Really expand on this. And if you are comfortable with XD, you are comfortable with designing, really take these, you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing, but take these to new levels and, you know, do something super creative. I love seeing that stuff. So for the background, we might want some sort of a color. So I can easily, you know, press on this color over here in my colors panel or my assets panel, and I can name this red background if I wanted to. That way, if I had multiple artboards, let's say I had all these artboards and I want to update this color, I can easily edit that and very easily make the change if I wanted to. But I'm pretty happy with that color. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And this is going to be the splash screen. Just make sure to keep all my artboards up to date, layers and that sort of thing. So I'm gonna grab my text tool and we're gonna type out, we're gonna name this app Real. Oh, and it already has the font I was gonna use selected. Well, there you go. That made life so much easier. So I grabbed this font from Adobe Fonts, formerly known as Typekit. And this is called BD Colonius. It's a pretty fun font. It's gonna be more of a fun movie application. So I'm gonna pop it, you know, somewhere in the middle of my document. And if you're brand new to Adobe XD, Point Text has this little handle at the bottom. This little guy right here. And you can very easily drag that up, drag it down, drag it all around, and make it larger or smaller without having to go to the properties inspector. So it's super handy. Now, just to get a little bit fancier with this logo, we're going to add a little bit of a square down here at the bottom. Because you know, a movie reels, they have those little squares on the actual reel. So I kind of want to incorporate some of that into this logo. So I'm going to put that square there, turn off the border. There we go. Pop that into place. And maybe I'll have another, maybe I'll have another one right above. And maybe on that one, I'm going to turn the opacity down just a little bit. And I'm going to duplicate these over here on this side, right? And maybe this one at the top will be 100% and this one will be 50%. And you can very easily change the opacity of your layers just by pressing the number keys on your keyboard. So if you press 5, it changes it to 50%. If you press 0, it changes it to 100%. And I believe, yeah, if you press 0 twice, it changes it to 0%. Super cool. So there is my logo. Pretty happy with it. Nothing, nothing too crazy, but not bad. And now I want to convert it into a component. So I'm going to select all of these layers just by dragging a selection around them. You can also go to your layers panel and just select one layer, hold down your shift key, and then select the last one. And then you can right click and you can turn it into a component. Now, if you're brand new, if you haven't really heard about the new update, components are the new symbols, right? Symbols previously allowed you to save groups of elements as a symbol, and you can basically, change one symbol and it changes all of them. But in terms of overrides, it was somewhat limited. You can change text and you can change images, but anything else you really couldn't override. But with components, you can override pretty much everything. Color, position, opacity, effects, a lot of different things. Vector elements, you can add elements, you can remove elements, and they all still remain linked back to the master. And throughout these 2 weeks, as we're designing this movie application, this progressive challenge, you're gonna see components really take effect and how powerful they are, because especially once we get to the point where we're designing for multiple screen sizes, instead of having to design and create many different symbols for every single one of those screen sizes, we can now just create one component and make them larger, make them smaller, change things around. It's super cool. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. So that will be my logo for now, and because it's a component, I can always make changes to it later if I wanted to, and it'll update everywhere. Now, if you want to get really fancy, we might want some sort of loading animation. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab this icon over here, this little movie to reel icon. I'm going to copy it. Go back over here. I'm going to paste it. Maybe make it a little bit larger. And what I might want to do, just to get a little bit fancy, is I might want this little, I guess it's the film strip, whatever you want to call it, to kind of come out as the application is loading, right? So this would essentially be the end state, but I want to create a mask so I can use that mask to auto-animate. And if you've never used auto-animate before, I'll explain what that does in a moment. But I don't need the rectangle, it's part of this. I just want, I'm gonna grab this, drag this out, just so I have the path. And I could double click on this path and make changes because it is a vector icon. But what I wanna do is I want to mask just the circle part, the circular part of this icon. And then it'll expand on the next state. So, in XD we have symbols and, so we have just components now. So components completely replace symbols. They're kind of like supercharged symbols, but it's just components now. So you have colors, you have character styles, and you have components now. And if you're brand new and you want to get up to date on all the new features, go to letsxd.com. I put a bunch of new videos up there on all the new features that explain the differences, and it's good stuff. So now for this, I want to mask essentially just a circle, right? So I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to drag out a circle over top of this shape, just like this. All right, that looks good. I don't need a border. And I've got this, I'm going to name this mask. I've got this over top of the icon that I want to mask. So in the layers panel, I'm going to make sure to select both of them. And then under the object menu, I'm going to go mask with shape. And essentially, it's going to mask that icon that was underneath inside of the shape that was on top of it, right? So now we can't see that little tail or movie strip or reel or whatever we want to call it. Can you animate vector paths in XD? Yes. So you've been able to animate vector paths since Auto Animate was released at Adobe Max last year, which is super cool. You can animate vector paths, masks, Boolean objects, a lot of really cool stuff. What happens to files that have symbols? So they'll still open, you'll still be able to use them, but they'll now be called components. And you'll have a master component, you'll be able to update them, a lot of cool stuff. So we've got our first icon. This is our first state of the loading animation. I will leave this, let's say right about here. That looks pretty good. And now we want to create the second state. So I'm going to duplicate this artboard over here to the right. Whoops, I let go of my Option key. You can also duplicate if you just select an artboard, Command or Control D, and that'll duplicate it right over. Perfect. All right, and now for this one, we essentially want to expand that mask so that the little tail, I'm gonna call it a tail, even though it's like a movie strip or a reel, I'm gonna call it a tail. We wanna expand that mask. So I'm gonna jump in here, I'm gonna grab the mask and just enlarge it, just like that. And I might even want to, maybe grab these vector lines and just make this little tail a little bit longer, just like that. And if I needed to adjust the curvature, I can do that just by pulling on these curves. That looks pretty fancy. And all of this will animate really beautifully. So this is our second state. And this is how easy auto animate is. All you have to do is design your first state, which is that, my hand cut off. But the first artboard is the first state. The second artboard is the second state. And now we can just tell Adobe XD, animate it, right? So I'm gonna hop into prototype mode. I'm gonna select the first artboard, because essentially at this point, I want this animation to kick off after a certain amount of time has elapsed. So I wanna select the entire first artboard. I'm gonna drag the blue handle, this little guy right here, to the second artboard, and I want to do a time trigger. Now, time trigger, good to note, is only available when you have an entire artboard selected. So I'm gonna select time, and maybe I want 0.6 seconds to pass. And I want auto animate as the action. And when you select auto animate, you're essentially telling Adobe XD to look at the differences between the wired up artboards and animate the changes. And it's gonna notice that the mask has changed. It's gonna notice that the tail got a little bit longer. So it's gonna notice that stuff and it's gonna animate it. Then you can choose how you want it to animate. Do you want it to ease in or ease out or ease in and out? So if you choose in and out, it'll be a little bit slower at the beginning, a little bit slower at the end, and kind of parallel in the middle. Or you can get fancy and go for snap or wind up or bounce. But I think for this one, in and out will be fine. And we'll do, let's try 3 seconds. It might be a little bit too long, but we're gonna try it. So that's all you have to do, right? And now once we press play, watch what happens. There's the tail, woo! You see that? So that's kind of like our fancy loading animation. Let's play that one more time. There we go. It just loads. It's super cool. And maybe we want one more state before this. So let me move these over. And let me move this. Maybe we want these items to appear before the loading takes place. So I'm gonna move maybe this one down a little bit, turn the opacity down. I'll move the logo down. Turn that down, right? And maybe, and because it's a component, we can override some of this stuff. So this one right here is the master component. Now, if I were to make changes to this one, it would make changes to everything. So what I want to do instead, I'm gonna name this reel. I'm gonna make sure my layer names are up to date across all my artboards. I'm actually going to duplicate this and just delete the master. That way I can make some changes to this particular component and not affect all the other ones. So maybe I want, let's say, this one, okay, that's gonna be that. And on this one, maybe these dots are both at 0, right? This one's at 0, this one's at 0, and then the entire thing is also, that probably didn't make sense, but we're gonna run with it. Perfect, all right, so we've got that, Our first state's complete. We're gonna do the exact same thing as we did previously. So we're gonna wire this up to the second artboard. It's gonna be a time transition, auto animate, in and out. We probably don't need 3 seconds, do 1 second. Let's see what happens. So it loads in, and then the loading animation takes place. The delay is a little bit too long, so what we're going to do is we're going to drop that down to 0.2 seconds. Maybe it's still a little bit too long. Maybe we'll do it immediately and then drop this down to 2 seconds as well. There we go. Not too bad. So there is our really fun splash screen. This will be, I'm gonna make sure to name this splash screen. And again, because these are components, you can make overrides, and auto animate does work with this sort of thing. Now, if you want to get really crazy, let's go ahead and let me bring this up to 100%. Let me actually, you know what? Let's go crazy. Let's get really crazy with this. That's 100%, that's 50%. I'm actually going to move these down here outside of the component and these up here. So now when it loads, those dots kind of fly in. Do you see that? Play that one more time. Those dots kind of fly in. Fun times. All right, so that's basically our splash screen. And you can turn your logo, your loading animation to a component if you wanted to. You got your logo as a component, and I'm gonna be uploading this to Dropbox so that need to repeat for break. I'm not 100% sure what that means, but clarify that and I'll try to answer that. But components also works with repeat grids as well. So I'm gonna be uploading this to Dropbox so you can, poke around and see how this works, and maybe use some of these examples in your projects as well. So now the next thing that's part of this challenge is to actually design the landing page. Now, we're not gonna have time in like 5 minutes to design the entire landing page, but what we could do is maybe if we want to get really crazy, hear me out on this. We might want to have this, right after this is done, have this enlarge the entire screen so that it becomes white. So the landing page becomes white. So let's see what happens. I haven't done this yet, so it may work, it may not work, I don't know. So this is above, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab this could work. I'm gonna make this super large, right? I'm just gonna make it just like crazy large. Just so we have the entire, this is probably a little bit too crazy. There we go, look at that. So now this is essentially, the movie reel is going to fill the entire screen, giving us the white background of our landing page. So immediately after this takes place, right? We're gonna go to this artboard here, and it's gonna be a time transition, 0 seconds, because I want to take place immediately. We'll do auto animate. 2 seconds might be too long, but I'm gonna leave it at 2 seconds now just so you can see what's happening. Here we go. It loads, and then wow. That was kind of cool. I don't know if it was too long. What do you think? Was that a little bit too long? Let's try a little bit quicker, just so you can't see all those crazy animations. Back in prototype mode, select the wire. Let's go for 1 second, see what that looks like. Interesting. I don't hate it. That's kind of cool. And then at this point, you would essentially have your landing page. So you have the logo at the top. So maybe in this case, we can have our component on this screen. Watch this. So we have the component over here. Move this up. And then we can change the fill. What did I do? Change the fill to the red. Let me go to my assets panel, change the fill to the red, make this a little bit smaller. I'd have to change the these boxes a little bit because I don't have my constraints set up, so they will change. What I can do is I can turn off fix width, or you know what? Let me do this. Let me show you. So I can edit the master component, right? And in here, I might want these to not be fixed width and these to not be fixed width. And that will push to all the other components. So now when I resize this, they'll all resize really nicely. And of course, I probably have to keep working on the constraints so that they remain at the top, they remain to the right, and that sort of thing. But, it helps. Top, left, bottom, beautiful. And then when I resize it, well, you get the idea. Work on your constraints, people. They will help you. So yeah, there we go. Comes out, and then, aha, fancy. All right, so that'll just about do it for today. We got a little bit crazy, but I'm gonna be uploading this to Dropbox shortly after the stream, so if you wanna download it, poke around, have some fun with it, definitely expand on it if you wanted to. Build out that landing page, upload that stuff to Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. I'm gonna be back tomorrow morning with Jessica at 9:30, and then the XD Daily Challenge day number 2 at 11:30. And stick around in just a few minutes. Terry White is coming back up. That'll be it for today, for me at least. Thanks so much for joining, everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow.